listening to the Lansdale Radio Show on Advent Sports Network.
Love looks like.
Back last May when Advent Sports Network launched and my show launched, I always knew that ultimately would come to a day where I had to bring in extreme talent, people that are more talented than myself, more articulate, have a better following. My show was successful. Jeremy Winston, who had been co-hosting my show, he branched off, and now he's doing the Rubicon, which is actually killing my show in the ratings. For the last month and a half, 2 months, I've been saying that we have to get a show for women on Advent Sports Network. I've been trying to find as many people as possible that would be interested in participating with that, and I've prayed over it and tried to find that right mix of superstar ladies that came from a diverse set of backgrounds that would really be able to discuss women's issues and take Advent Sports Network beyond just coverage of sports, but actually create kind of a tapestry of what real life is and show the many ends of the spectrum on political topics and personal topics and gender-based topics. So, an answer to my prayers came last week. I had a group of young ladies that I had thought in mind that would be perfect for this opportunity. I approached a couple of people in the group, and much to my delight, they had actually been praying and they had actually been kind of talking about going off and doing a podcast. So I want to introduce these 5 superstar ladies that are going to take over Advent Sports Network. They're going to knock it out the park. Their show is going to be amazing. It's going to be a game changer. It's going to be a part of our strategy and my strategy as far as moving what we're doing to terrestrial radio and as far as what we're doing with the mentorship and development program. These 5 ladies that are on actually make us a true network and not just me and Jeremy doing our own solo podcast. So I would like to introduce Janelle Phillip, Porsche Vanderhorst, Carmen Robinson, Amber Coopwood, and Tiffany Glover to Advent Sports Network. And my listeners, these ladies, and Janelle, I'll let you get the first question. Tell us about how you and I how this thing kind of developed. Tell my listeners what the name of your show is going to be and what is it going to be about.
Hey, James. Well, this is really awesome. But first, I want to do a small correction. It's not just 5 of us. There's 5 of us on right now, but it's really 7 of us, but 2 cannot make it. And the other 2 that couldn't make it today but will be on the show are Denise Defoe and Shalisha Vanderhorst, that they're the BFFs of just within themselves, so they add a whole nother dynamic. But just to say a little bit of how we got onto this, you and I just happened to link up and talk. We've known each other for forever, since high school, I think. Yeah, high school. Mm-hmm. And these ladies and I, we have a group chat that we've started probably a couple of years ago. It seems like it's been forever, but group chat hasn't been forever, but it seems like it. And we all are connected through the Adventist community, through growing up, through all kinds of dynamics, through college, through everything else. And we have this group chat of us. And our group chat is really actually pretty live. We think it's interesting. Now, I think if anybody listens or looks at it, I think they'll be interested too. But from us talking on this group chat, all of the opinions, all of the intelligence, all of the dynamic diversity between everyone, we just said, this needs to be out in the public. We got things to say, and we think people kind of want to hear us because it is a little bit of a different spin. And so as you and I were talking, you talked about your show and the network and all that y'all were doing, and I was sitting there stunned like, oh, my goodness, because we have been talking about the podcast. We talked, we linked up, within a few, here we are. And what's our name? Our name is Femme Noir. That's French for black woman.
Not only are you adding a women's touch, which is sorely needed at Advent Sports Network, you are also adding class by using a French name.
Class, elegance, and every other good word that you can find to attach to it. Yeah.
Sounds awesome. So some of the other ladies, I'm kind of curious. Amber, what is your perspective, and kind of tell us what you bring to the table? 7 people is pretty strong. So on a show of 7 people, you have so many diverse personalities. I mean, you can go on and on with talent for days and days. What do you bring to the table, Amber?
Well, I think my perspective is probably a little bit different than the other girls. They call me their resident attorney. I am not an attorney, but I work at a law firm, and so I guess I kind of, present, or I take situations, different situations, and I kind of look at them through a legal mind before I allow my personal feelings into them. And so that's just how, I guess that's my different niche on our little group chat that we have.
So Amber is going to be hitting everyone with the legal type of mindset, that type of high level of logic. Porsche, I've known you for a long time. I've sang with you at Oakwood and the Aeolian. Anyone that grew up in Allegheny East Conference knows your father and has been preached to by him at the junior youth tent. So I know you well over the years. One of the reasons I wanted to get you, and I actually said to Janelle, my exact words were, I will come begging on my hands and knees for the 2 of you to be on. I didn't know of the other talent that you were bringing on board. I saw you do a video, kind of a satirical video about nuptials recently, and I saw that on Facebook, and it was linked to I guess, your own YouTube channel. And I said when I saw that, I was like, I've got to get her on Advent Sports Network. Tell us about some of your talents and what you bring to the table.
You know what? This comedy, I guess, angle has been in me for a long time. I always called myself funny, and my other friends just stared at me. But they look at my videos when I send them, and I think they chuckle. I like improv. I like the art of being on the spot and having to work through it. I think I get it because I taught high school and middle school, and you always got to be on. I called it edutainment. That's what I felt like. So I enjoy entertaining, but I also enjoy entertaining cerebral topics. So, and then looking at them through a comedic lens, but also taking the serious angle as well. So I'm kind of hoping that as we get into this, we can kind of mix up the way we interact. So I know we have the podcast, but what if we periscoped while we podcast? So if there was anything visual or any hilarity that we wanted to show, people could tap into that as well. So that's kind of the angle that I bring, and I'm looking forward to it.
That is awesome. I'm actually, it's funny that you said that because I'm in the process of putting a studio in my house, so it'll actually be like a studio with a round table, kind of like for those type of discussions. So I think the idea of periscoping while podcasting, that's even better. That's going to draw more interest and more listeners. It's going to, and more viewers. It's going to be awesome. Carmen, tell us a little bit about what you bring to the table. What are some of the topics that you find interest in? I know that you are a doctor, a person of very high education. What's kind of your niche in this group, kind of this superwoman group of 7 people that are just going to take ASN by storm?
First of all, I'd like to mention that I also sang with you in the Aeolian, but I was in college choir my first semester, so you probably didn't remember that, me and Tiffany. So anyway,
no, I remember you and Tiffany. You have to bust me up about it on my own show. It's just, remember, I was kind of transitioning out of the Aeolians as you and Porsche and y'all were coming in. So yeah. I was an old head 5-year senior by then. So I need to get up out.
You can do your apology offline.
Got it.
So yeah, I'm a physician and I like all things science. I think my spin on things is I need receipts on just about everything. I need people to show their work. I'm a 4th generation Adventist, and I come from a line of church workers, conference workers. My grandfather pioneered literature evangelism at Review and Herald and in the conferences and at Oakwood. And even with all of that, I still question. I question a lot. So you'll find I can be a little bit controversial at times, but
love it.
I hold my beliefs very dear. My beliefs are mine, but I question a lot. And if someone brings a topic, we can disagree. We can not feel the same way, but be prepared to argue your point, because I'm gonna push you a little bit. So that's a little bit.
All right, so it's great to see these personalities shaping up. Last on this group, but definitely not least, Sister Glover, kind of let us know what you bring to the table. I remember you a little bit better. I've had more interactions with you than I've had with Carmen, so I already kind of know what you bring to the table, but remind me and educate my audience of some of the things that you bring to the table.
Well, I am one of 4 resident social workers in this group, and my angle, I think, comes specifically from making sure that people are okay. There are things that are happening where families are being affected, and there are no consequences. And I'm a person, I was raised in strict discipline. I'm a 3rd-generation Adventist. My grandfather's a preacher. We believe in discipline in my family. We believe in making things right. And I'm a firm believer in making things right. I don't believe that just because so-and-so says so that everything has to go that way when it's not right. I've been known in my work and in my personal life to go against the grain. I'm not going to do something or say something just because you told me. You've got to really show that what you're doing, what you're saying is right. And so I'm very strong in that aspect. So that's what I need to see. But I also don't like to see people railroaded when, there's not really evidence. Mm-hmm. Oftentimes there's smoke. Where there's smoke, there's fire. However, if you can't prove it, if you can't prove the fire, then sometimes you just have to let things go. So I think I come from a different aspect. I think my personality is a little bit more, I'm the introvert in the group, even though no one else will tell you that, but I am. I'm the introvert in the group. So I kind of like to hear everything that's said and then put in my 2 cents. So kind of that's where I'm coming from. I'm recently married, so it's put a little bit of a different spin on even life in general at this point. So that's
I actually followed you, Tiffany. I saw your wedding pictures and stuff. I was like, that's awesome. I live out on the West Coast, so I'm not as looped in with everyone that's kind of back east. But I saw your wedding pictures, and I was just like, I remember Tiffany from school. That's great. You speak with very strong tones. I have the sudden urge to drop down and do 25 push-ups. So I think that through the course of the show, that we really see what you bring to the table. So it's great to see this all-star group of young ladies, young, strong black women coming to fruition. We're going to take a break on the Lance J Radio Show for our sponsors, and we will be back with the gorgeous and talented ladies of Femme Noir, our new show on Advent Sports Network.
You're listening to Advent Sports Network, your exclusive home for South Central Conference basketball and the Lance J Radio Show.
You think I dream of coming to work on a Sunday morning? Tell all my friends what a good job I got? I'm working to support a family, man. Pretend I ain't talking to you. Pretend like I ain't even on this earth. I know what you are. Now, I ain't stepping two, but I am a man. And you just act like you don't even know I'm there. I don't. I'm here. Look, I told you I wasn't stepping two. I ain't disrespecting you, son.
You want it to be one way.
What?
You want it to be one way.
Man, I don't
want
know
it to be one
Man,
way.
stop! Stop saying that.
What is the other way?
You are listening to the Lance J Radio Show on Advent Sports Network.
Situation from a darker view. Night and day, salt and pepper in the earthly stew. But the salt think it tastes better, straight up superior. Therefore the flavor of the pepper's inferior. inferior. Incorrect though, giving some heartburn. Level of a devil, better wait your turn. And here is one recollection of imperfection. No one should be judged by complexion. Libraries broken down as lies buried to force their beliefs.
Recently, there was a young man that came to kind of speak as part of the Black student movement. Southern Adventist University is the largest SDA university in North America, so it's kind of considered as the flagship of university as far as their offerings and the endowment and the different classes that they have, the different lines that a person can go into. A person was there to speak and kind of represent the Black student movement there, and as part of Black history. There are some very insensitive and racial comments made online about this individual that kind of shows some of the split that we still have, not just in the SDA church, but as Christians as a whole. People have been really talking about it. So I just kind of wanted to go around and get some quick commentary on what you ladies think.
I think racism is everywhere. I'm not surprised that it's shown up there, and I'm not surprised at the colorblind and tentative response. I'm proud of the students there who are speaking up against it, but I'm convinced racism is going to get worse in our churches, honestly. It's happening. It's just not online everywhere.
I also think that there's a very deep color line in the SDA church, and for it to, I don't see why anybody's surprised. I really don't, because the average, all of our churches are all separated by, ethnicities and races. So for something like this to come up should not be a surprise to people. And I think that I think that Southern probably should have been more on the offensive side, and they should have been looking at doing more things to appeal to different groups that are, the diversities that are on the campus. They need to have some cultural competency type things that are going on, because you have so many different races and so many different ethnicities on that campus that something is bound to happen, especially with, people growing up with these deep racial divides. So I really think that Southern is doing their students a disservice when they're not on the offensive. They've got to be looking out for this kind of thing, especially considering what's going on in the world today. These racists are really coming out the woodworks. We all knew they were there, but they're really coming out now, and the people are making it okay for them to come out.
I agree.
So you've got to really look at it.
In my personal experience and the experience of many members of my family, as I told you, I'm long line of Adventists, and with that, we've always been put in Adventist church schools, K through 8, college, all of that. And in my personal experience and in the experience of my family, the worst races are white Christian / white Adventist races. Are all white Christians or white Adventist racist? No. But I have found that the worst races are the ones that embrace Christ as their shield, embrace the cross. And it's not surprising, as everyone said. I'm not surprised. But what I was disappointed, I think what was most disappointing to me was not even what was said by the students on the Yik Yak app, but what was the response from Southern Adventist University. And it was the shock, Christ calls us all to, treat one another with love. Counseling is available to the students, and they ended with a Bible verse. Okay, so the onus is on those who have been the victims of racism. The onus is once again on us to find our own healing. What is that? I'm really disappointed with Southern with that initial response. I was glad that, and I think it was in small or large part, in some part due to the response that they got on social media, the negative response that they got to their initial statement put out, that they now have said, okay, we're going to contact the app developers, see if we can find the identities of these people, and then, some sort of disciplinary action, I suppose. But why does it take an uproar for that to happen? Why can't the automatic response be to make sure that people never feel comfortable acting like that?
Right.
There's an attitude and an atmosphere of comfort. They do it and they say these things, and I'm talking about the racists. They do it because they feel comfortable. That's just the bottom line.
You are listening to the Lance J Radio Show on Advent Sports Network. In 49 BC, Julius Caesar led an army over the Rubicon River from Gaul into northern Italy. By doing so, he crossed the point of no return in declaration of war against the Roman Empire. Centuries later, you are listening to Jeremy Winston reach his point of no return only on Advent Sports, The Rubicon.
I have one more question for the two of you before we wrap up, which is completely different. Carla's been telling me this story, Dante, that the first time that the two of you met was a quote-unquote, you really met and got up close and personal, face-to-face. Carlin has been telling this tale that he may or may not have put you on a poster at a Pro-Am league or in the I don't remember exactly where it happened. Did Carlin dunk on you many years ago, or is Carlin making this story up? Because I have to get to the bottom of it.
Now, if it was 50% questionable, he wouldn't be able to tell it around town, or it wouldn't last past the last guy he talked to. But his respect and the way he's respected amongst the basketball family. See, this was a time when he was still calling the thing he was calling the great. You know, now you can tell him about it. But and me at that time, my respect in outside basketball, if it wasn't supposedly on that level, was not quite the concentration it should have been. So I'm very disrespectful out there at a time when maybe when they took the picture, I should have been at a different angle. Even though he know and I both know that I was off cue and he was already ahead of the curve for the dunk to happen with me within 3 or 4 feet. But if you took the picture the right way, man, what can I say?
Advent Sports Network is a 503c charity. All advertising proceeds from the Lance J Radio Show are used to fund nationwide youth sports programs and the Advent Sports Network Mentorship and Development Institute, which provides opportunities for young aspiring Christian journalists to cover athletic events and produce sports-related programming.
They need to ask the students, because I bet you no.
You're right.
It's really not that. It's not going to be that difficult for you to find out who it was. It's really not.
That before this event.
Yeah, they should have done that before they even put their. They could have done that before they even put their statement out, and it shouldn't have taken them 24 hours to put a statement out.
Well, I'm going to say this, that, I'm a proud graduate of HBCU, Howard University, the original and only HU that really matters. Sorry, Hampton. But, I don't really get this whole process nowadays. And maybe as I get older, I get a little bit more revolutionized. I don't get this whole process of why we even funneling money into this stuff. Listen, you racists want a racist, let them racist on their own dollar and their own dime. I have a 16-year-old getting ready to go off to college. I can promise you, any institution that responds to racism in that kind of way will never see a dollar. And I don't know why our children are continuing to go there to be subjected to that foolishness. This is a little bit different than the other mainstream where you're talking about some of these other universities. In this context that it's Adventist and it's under this Christian umbrella, I'm expecting more response, harsher response, more dig deeper, do something. But this little weak response right there, not standing for it. They're not getting no money. We need to stop supporting it until they take our issues just as seriously as we do. Because people don't listen until you show them with your dollars. I firmly believe in that. They don't listen unless you make them broke. Unless you make them poor or interfere with their money, all of a sudden it happens. This is through the history. Just like with the bus boycotts. Nobody cared until they stopped getting paid. We need to go back to that thought process. So that's why I stand. Forget them. Let you go ahead and be. We ain't going to pay you nothing.
Well, Janelle, now that brings us up to a topic that we probably need to add to our list, and that's tithing. But I digress.
But you know what, Jay? Well, Carmen, I agree. But you know what, Jay? When have Adventists ever been on the forefront of any movement? When we
Never not.
Civil rights in history, we heard about Southern Baptists, this, that, and the other thing. Didn't hear hide or hair about Adventists and their role in the boycotts in this. So,
well, people often cite where Ellen G. White talks about, and this is actually this is the 45th episode of my show. This is the first time I've referenced Ellen G. White on my show. So for those listening, I'm in the second segment. For those listening, you're listening to the Lance J. Radio Show. I have 5 completely awesome. I would name all 5 of them, but that would extend the time beyond the show. But I have 5 completely awesome ladies who are going to be a part of Advent Sports Network on a move-forward basis. We're kind of introducing Femme Noir, which is going to be the ladies' talk show for ASN, but also just throwing out some random topics. So we're discussing some of the racial injustice and some of the horrible incidents that have recently happened at Southern Adventist University. I was citing the fact that Ellen G. White speaks to African Americans or Negroes during that time and instructs them that finishing the work is actually more important than fighting for civil rights. So there are a lot of people on the other side of the ledger, on the far right, so to speak, that would say that you should not be concerned with being mistreated racially because that's just part of the order and you should be more focused on being a Christian. So there are a lot of people, just like one of you ladies mentioned, that there are some, and we're not indicting all Caucasian SDAs or all Caucasians, period, but there are some that have used Scripture and kind of twisted Scripture to lower those of other races into a subhuman type status where they should be in a perpetual servitude.
Well, I'm partial to Ellen's my girl because I feel like she's a regular woman who got talked to, and I feel like I'm a regular woman who got talked to. So when I hear her referenced and then a negative or something that she spoke against, I'm all about context. So I'm not familiar about the reference. I'm going to look it up. But I don't know her context in saying that. I can say what Portia's heard from God is a part of the work is to respond to injustice. That's what he said in Micah 6:8. That's what he requires of us. So I don't think she maybe disagreed against it. Like I said, I got to find the context, but I think context matters in why she said what she said.
But also when you're looking at hierarchy of needs, you have to meet people where they are. Nobody's looking to hear your gospel if they don't have food. So you have to hit people where they are. And where a lot of people are right now is in this space where there's so much racial injustice and people are feeling it more and more every day. And you have to speak to that. You can't ignore that and then push the Bible on people. And I don't know the context of that Ellen G. White clip either, but I also don't believe that maybe in the grand scheme of things, yes, salvation is most important. But while we're here, we have to deal with things that are here. Sin is still here, so we still have to deal with it. And I don't think we can sit around and ignore it while people are being murdered.
Mm-hmm.
That's
right, Tiffany. And you know what? That's that Maslow's hierarchy of needs that is so important and which makes sense. You got to feed them at the base. But the truth of the matter is this: I'm not familiar with what Ellen says, but I know what the Bible says. I read it every day. I've read it through many times. I'm no scholar. I have no degree in it, but the Lord speaks to me just like Porsche said. He spoke to Ellen and everybody else. The Bible talks about when you're hungry, did you feed me? When you're thirsty, did you give me something to drink? When I was naked, did you clothe me? What it's talking about at the core of those things is addressing people, just like Tiffany said, at what it is that they need. Don't give me religion on one side while you're shackling me on the other. They already played that mess and got us with that foolishness 40-something years ago as they took us over and beat us and then quoted Scripture. So you can't do it. And just to be clear, Scripture did not determine race itself. It talked about slavery and masters. Nowhere in that was there ever any definition or identification of race. So that was just another ploy by racists and oppressors to try to make black folks subservient.
Yeah, because if they were doing the right thing, they would have let their slaves go a lot earlier because there was a 7-year turnaround on that thing.
That's right.
And I think, I was actually in church yesterday at
I don't know if I should name the church, but I was at Atlanta Berean yesterday, and we were honoring a few people. And one of the men who spoke made a statement about Black Lives Matter and how, the Black Lives Matter movement is, a good thing, but, last year there were 10,000 Black men killed by Black men, and we need to worry about that too. And, I kind of got a little annoyed because I feel like, we are all very intelligent beings, and God has given us the gift of multitasking, and I can be concerned about more than one thing. I feel that Black Lives Matter is important. I can also feel that child labor laws are important. I can also feel that, women getting equal pay is important. I don't have to, necessarily focus and hone in on one thing, and that's the only thing I can think about, So I get a little annoyed when I hear people say, things of that nature. And again, like, all the other girls have said, we don't know the context of Ellen G. White's statement, but I can be concerned about salvation and also about civil rights.
Boom.
She said it.
Well, so for those listening, this is kind of the hard-hitting type of discussion that we've been trying to build up to at Advent Sports Network for the last 8-9 months. These ladies are obviously going to kill it. Femme Noir, check it out. Yours truly will be producing the show, so that's going to be an honor for me. And I just wanted to say that, ladies, the 7 of you are an answer to prayer. I've been praying over this movement. I've poured a lot of my personal time and personal money into kind of building up this group and really just starting to reach critical mass. I mean, I recently, on my show, starting to get to where I'm interviewing like former professional athletes that have testimonies, and really just being at a position to where it's a news outlet. It's not a thus saith the Lord, but we're just covering news, but it's from a Christian perspective. So the addition of the 7 of you is really going to take us to a new level. I haven't been shy about the fact that my goal is to move this towards terrestrial radio. I've already been in contract negotiations to get this show and hopefully blocks of my show and the Rubicon with Jeremy Winston, and ultimately the 7 of you to find a way to get this on the terrestrial radio. And like Porsche said, there's so many ways to increase the platform, and there's so much talent within just the group of kind of our circle, and I've traversed some of the same places that the 5 of you online today have. There's just so much talent within that group, and why not harness that talent and use it to build something of substance and that can be really strong and informative and encouraging. So it's just very exciting to have the 5 of you and the other 2 young ladies who couldn't make the call today on my show and on Advent Sports Network. I thank you many, many times for believing in what I'm doing and just taking the opportunity to be a part of my team. I will give you, Janelle, the last word. If you could just tell my listeners, other than kind of like the discussion that we just had, what are some of the other things that are going to be on Femme Noir? I mean, what type of topics are you ladies going to discuss? What's going to be the format?
Well, we're going to talk about everything because how we are in our group chat, we talk about everything. Expect to hear, of course, what women don't like to talk about men in some form or fashion. We're going to talk about men. We're going to talk about children. We have some really funny kids that we kind of are responsible for at least the time being, and other children and so forth. We're going to talk about grocery shopping. We're going to talk about what's coming up, all the elections coming about. Listen, I ain't going to talk about Trump right now. We don't have time, but we're going to talk about...
We ain't got time for that.
We ain't got time for that. We're going to talk about what it's like to be embarrassed. Picture anything that comes to mind, we're going to talk about, but we'll definitely be on task for any kind of trending major events. We always get into it about those things. So we're looking forward to just opening up the gamut for all kinds of discussions.
Well, ladies, whatever I can do to produce and be a part of this, I mean, you guys got full creative control, so I'm going to get out your way and just put everything around the way that you want it. But whatever we can do, and as far as what we have at ASN to make this an awesome and global brand, we're behind you the whole way. So thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
The Lance J Radio Show is taped at Advent Sports Network Studios, located in beautiful